What's up, brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7_D. I'm gonna try to do a video, getting one of my journals or a book that talks about either the Aboriginal blacks in America or black people in Europe. And it's really, this is something we really gonna have to study. And I've said this over and over again, but many of us have been so conditioned not wanting to learn this information that is out there about the black Aboriginal Europeans and the black Aboriginal Americans and what they build. I said it in my other videos how those castles in Europe were built by Negroes. They were, because the black people there had the technology and the skill to build those structures. You had great structures here in Americas where the black folks built from the natural elements that were already here, from the rock, and they carved into the rock and they built great structures within the rocks, and then cities right off the riverbed. You know, what's so special is that you see there's so many images that proving that black people here. I think in an older video I did mention this before, how you had there's pictures showing the black people here in power, and they lock some of the white people in caves who were the enemy, and they basically had certain type of animals, exotic animals, to eat them up or destroy them, or they lit them on fire. There's so many images that you see the black folks here in Florida, Louisiana, Virginia, New Amsterdam, New York, Michigan, you know, Illinois, state of Washington, California, Texas, all over. You see images of Aboriginal black people that were already here, the original people. Aboriginal means the black people that were here, not Native Americans. All right, I've said this in the video, so many videos in the past. Native Americans are not indigenous to anything. They are foreigners. The Aboriginal people are not foreigners. They're the original people here. All right, but the images of the black population, or the Aboriginal population, the melanated population, is global. When you look at those images over in Cambodia, Angkor Wat, you see large heads with Negroes carved into. Remember, they did this on every continent. Large heads of obviously Negroes carved all into those images that you find over in Cambodia, was Angkor Wat and Tom, all over India. Cambodia. Then you see structures of the Aboriginal black people in India. Then you also see images of not only elephants but giraffes. Giraffes, so the giraffes have to be transported by ships, by boat, over in those regions. The giraffes come from a certain area of Africa. So people sailed around the world. Negroes had the concept of selling globally. Remember the book I showed you with the Philippines? It showed the Negro fishing, and he had his little boat. And you look at the documentary that's done by, it's called The First American. They showed these Australoid blacks. Still to this very day, they will build boat raft to sail the seas, to go fishing. I'm telling you, this was done. This is how our people traveled globally. Our people did travel globally. The first time we traveled to different areas, we used ships. Well, in some instances you were able to walk across, but I'm telling you this: the foreigners who came here to the Americas, the Negro foreigners came to America. They came on ships. They sailed over here. We sailed around the planet. We sailed around the world. We didn't have to be packed up like sardines to be brought over here, which we were selling around the world. You have to understand this. And it's the concept that so many people do not understand or do not want to understand. Because you have been told that you were just a slave from Africa, and then when you combat that or come with information that goes against that, then some people get turned off, they run away. They put their head in the sand. It's sad, but it's the truth. We're going to have to take the time to study. I have a picture of an Aboriginal black American. It was a king, obviously. And I think he had, it was a shield. It showed the king, and on the shield is an image of a black man. But the king had a crown on his head, and he had like little leaflets around his wrist and his elbow. And this is obviously a short statured black man of high status, or melanated Negro of high status. I may end up showing a picture that I have of that. But the problem is that when you do safe surface level research, you will not get this information. When you just do a Google research and believe in what Wikipedia tells you, you don't get this information. All right? The information you're going to have to dig up for. You know, like the so-called continent of Africa was named, had various different names. You know, not just later on known as Alkebulan, whatever. It had various different names. But when our people just go and grab one information from one source is not credible, then that's a problem. You know, when you read these books, man, they're gonna be like a flutter of lies, man, with some truth. And when I listen to those individuals like Phenom Roscoe, I like Jabari, how he went after Dr. Ali. I didn't see the whole thing because I think these debates are worthless because the original people in America were black. It's not even up for debate. It really is, man. But you will quote scholars, like I said in other videos, who are just flat out racist, distort history, telling Egypt was mixed, white. But then you sit up there, you attack historians who talk about the original people, how they look here, but they would describe them as Ethiopians. But then you take scholars and you call them credible. And like I just said, making the ancient Egyptians non-so-called black people. See, I right there tells me you're a question mark and a charlatan and a fraud right there when you do that. I told you before how as a youth, I started to pick up on BS, man. I smelled BS. When it came to our history, I knew that it was a segment of our people who look like us. Many of them were Boule. And like I said, I don't respect the Boule. I really don't. I don't respect the Boule. Because most of them are trifling sellouts who misguided our people and have us going the wrong way. Like, I don't have respect for the NAACP, an organization started by light-skinned Negroes and non-black Jewish people who've basically been out of touch with our community. And many of their leaders have been out of touch. I have no respect for that organization. But there's some things you may agree with, but For the most part, I don't agree with them organizations because those organizations are controlled and funded by people who do not have our best interests. And that's what a lot of these bootleg Negroes are about. They're controlled by people outside the community, or they've been heavily influenced by people outside the community and who do not have the best interests at heart for our community. So we don't need that. We need to do the grassroots research and get everything bare bones. Because I'm telling you right now, your information is right under your fingertips. It really is. It's right under your fingertips. But you're going to have to do the research. And you're going to have an open mind on who you are. Like I said before, these mounds only had, quote, well, there's very different types of mounds, but they don't just have bodies buried up in there, man. There are furnaces found in those mounds. I said that before. And like I said before, is that those furnaces can be used to heat up those mounds. 'Cause some of the mounds had a very small entrance, excuse me, where you can enter in. Put it that way, where you can enter in. And a lot of individuals traveled from the north to the south during certain times of year. Well, some stayed, and they stayed in the mound area because they had furnaces to keep them warm during the winter time. I mean, that happened. I talked about how you have carvings all over the West Coast, the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Arizona, Utah, carving into rock, man. Different geometric figures. And then you have rock art painting all over. Paintings, rock that's showing images of humans or animals. But it's been so deteriorated over time. It has not been kept up. Also, weathering has caused damage on it too. It has been kept up. And then also in those areas, you can also tell there used to be little river streams that were there, but it dried up. See, the information's there, but you got to study it. You have to study it, man. You really have to study it. Like West Africa was not always dry in a desert. They used to have mega lakes all through Africa. And obviously when that stuff dry up, migrations of people go and leave because that's their lifeblood. History has been a lie agreed upon. And it's been an agreed upon lie to suppress our true history in America, man. You brothers and sisters are going to have to stop this stuff that you say that you're just a slave from Africa, man. That is terribly inaccurate information. I showed you images before of an orb or an egg, and it's cut in half. That shows you the Egyptian Empire in Americas, particularly South America, and in Africa. One side had the image of the bird, the other side had the image of the serpent. And when both of them represent the two lands, not just Northeast Africa, but the Americas. You gotta study this, man. This stuff is really in your face, but you're gonna have to really study this, because it's rare. See, most of these Negro scholars are not gonna tell you this, like I said, because half of them don't know themselves, and another group just want white acceptance that bad. And it's sick, man. And it's really sad because a lot of them brothers and sisters who came up in the 60s, not all, but a lot of them feel that that's their self-worth is trying to prove to white people that we're humans. I'm not going to waste my time on that. That's a time waster. It's a big time waster that we shouldn't even waste our time with. But you have the Negro doing that. And the Negress doing that. We need to study our true history. We need to learn our true history. We need to realize that all so-called black people aren't the same, and most of us here in the West did not come from an African slave ship. That's not accurate, man. I know what your professors taught you in schools, but the information is wrong. It's a concerted effort to suppress this information. And it's sad when you see black folks in other parts of the world, so-called black people in other parts of the world, and then you have them, and you had them here, but you want to ignore the fact that they were here. You want to put them blinders on them. Like I said before, see no knowledge, hear no knowledge, smell no knowledge. Because this is what this is all about, man. It's all about capturing and controlling the minds. They've done that to a lot of the elders. It's trying now it's being a full-fledged, full-court press on the youth. And I'm telling you to study your real history. But you have to turn the key and unlock that door to study your real history. Study your real history. Ask yourself why you never hear about, quote, white slaves, but you had white slaves all over the place. Because they were the original slaves of Slavic people. And you did have white slaves here in America, like I said it before. They were used as sacrifices here. There were servants here. I showed you talking about retainer slaves. When the black king or the pharaoh died in America, the whites, then some of his servants would be killed and be buried not far from him. This information's in your face. I showed you pictures of that. White folks with clubs like cavemen, and then around the black king here. Your information's all over the Americas. Your history's all over the Americas. It's sad that too many of our people just don't want to hear the truth. And that comes from conditioning. You've been heavily conditioned to not love yourself. You got big old white Jesus statues in Brazil. Over in Africa, I believe it's Nigeria. Big old white Jesus statues, man. So right there, there's been a plant in your head to see, quote, your white man as the son of God. And then obviously if you're the son of God, then your God is white. That's sick, man. But we have been conditioned this way. We had to break that down, man. Just like you break everything down, strip it down. You want to build a bike or something, or you strip down, the car to fix the car or your truck. That's what we have to do, strip it down, break it down when it comes to history. We have to do that, man. We cannot continue to believe that we're slaves from Africa. That's wrong information. And I'm telling you this. And I've given plenty of resources to show you this. You're going to have to open your mind. You cannot continue to think that our people were landlocked in West Africa. That's bad information. Even in Africa, the people traveled, formed different tribes, broke off into other tribes. This is common sense. The information in your face. White folks come from black people. They're not indigenous to no land. They come from Albinoid type of Negroes. When you look at a lot of Negroes who suffer from albinism, it depends, but some of them, well, a lot of them will be partially albinoid or fully albinoid. They'll have the lighter eyes, the pale skin, and obviously their hair is still woolly, but some of them will have straight hair. Because our people come in very different hair textures. Some of them will have straight hair. White folks come from albinoid black people. And it's that mixture of those pale white people and like Australoid and Khoisan type blacks and other blacks that you see. I showed you the black people in Asia, how there were different types of black people. The black people in the Philippines, the way they look different from the black people in the Andaman Islands, who look different from, let's say, some of the black people who you find over in the Pacific Islands. And then you have black people in Australia with some who have wavy straight hair compared to black people in Tasmania who have the more woolly hair. You know, you just have some black Australia with more woolly hair. See, we're not the same. We're not the same one type. That's why I keep emphasizing this. You have to expand your mind and what you study or what you see as a black person. You're willing to take Obama in, who's mixed background, but you're not willing to study your Aboriginal diversity globally. It's in your face, but you have to study it. Do not let Boule Negroes continue to tell you a lie about who you are. And these white folks are laughing to the bank on you being ignorant of your history in America. Once you understand the true histories of Americas, you know who you are, man. Ancient structures built by black people here in Americas that represent the celestial images that you see in the sky. Their structures built like the Pentagon, and are much older than the Pentagon. It's built all over the Americas. Along with various different archaeological structures that our ancestors built here in the Americas. Slaves didn't do this. Slaves didn't have this technology, man. This was done by high skilled workmen or masons who built Aboriginal black people who built the civilizations in the Americas. But you have to want to study it. And there's so many people trying to poo-poo, oh, these black people call themselves Native American. Nobody called themselves no damn Native American. Or they call themselves being indigenous to America. I'm African, and I know my ancestors brought over in slave ship. Take your DNA. And you sound stupid. You sound really ignorant. That's what these white folks want you to think. They want to throw you off course of learning your true history. I showed you shipbuildings, brothers and sisters who had ships around the world, like I said earlier. I had the books called Egyptian Boats. There are various different types of boats, ships that the ancient Egyptians had. I'm telling you, you're going to have to spend money to do some real research. You cannot do Google research because you're not going to get information. You do Google research, then you're a descendant of slaves, not knowing that the original slaves of this planet were white, Slavic. Those original slaves, not the Aboriginal black people that were already here. I said before, the downfall to a lot of our people were in-house fighting. In-house fighting amongst ourselves here, globally, but here particularly. You had great gardens with water fountains. Man-made rivers, docks, here in the Americas. Not only the real river beds, but man-made rivers. You had that in the Americas, man. You had that all over the Americas. But when you just think of yourself as a slave, you think of yourself as being just little to nothing. And then also, you claim to go into Africa to find your culture. Your culture is right in front of your face. And it's way beyond 400 years, which that narrative has been going around since the 60s. Your whole culture here in America thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years in America, man. But you're going to have to want to learn it, to seek it. The information's there. If you're willing to take it. What's the mission possible? If you take this mission, if you so choose. If you take this information, you so choose. Because the information's there. And I'm saying this again, I beg you, brothers and sisters, I beg of you, do not listen to the Boule Negroes. Do not listen to your mainstream Negroes, because they're misleading you. You're being misguided because they're misguided. They were programmed or trained to be misguided. This is not my opinion. This is what they're about. When you ignore the Aboriginal history of Americas, man, I call that a dereliction of duty, that you ignoring it. You won't even look into it. It just tells me how ignorant that person is. I have had no respect for them. No respect for any individuals who would deny this. And there's too many Negroes doing this. This is why I don't care for Boule groups, Boule gatekeepers. There's nothing good about them. There's nothing good about a person who's going to lie to your face, spit in your face and say it's raining, piss in your face and then say it's raining. Because that's what's being done. You have to want to do the research. And like I said before, I beg of you, do not listen to them. Do your own research. Get a library card. Try to get as many books that you can send at the library. But lots of times, some of these books are lies. Some people don't know how to understand a lie from the truth. But when you also study climate, obviously people are going to be darker skinned in these warmer climatic areas. When they wore light clothing to no clothing, they could not have been pale skinned because they would have died of skin cancer. You have to understand this with places like ancient Heru. They weren't pale Mongoloid people. They were darker Negroes. You have to understand this. Peace and love, brothers and sisters.